Hey guys, it's Miss Piccioli. I'm here to tell you a story about my daughter's misplaced trust in me, her mom. So, for those of you who don't know, my daughter Ellie is 19. She just turned 19 last week. She's a freshman in college. And my youngest daughter is 15 and she's a freshman in high school. But this story took place when they were, we think, 5 and 3. We were going to a butterfly garden. We thought it was going to be a great afternoon. We thought the girls would love butterflies. I mean, who doesn't love butterflies? We kept telling them they're pretty and they're colorful and they've got beautiful wings and they're like little fairies and da 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 da. My youngest daughter was thrilled. She thought it was the greatest idea ever. But my oldest daughter, she worries about things she didn't like. My youngest daughter used to love digging in the garden and pulling out worms, and my oldest daughter wanted none of that. But these weren't worms, they're butterflies. And so we're in line, we're buying the tickets, and the whole time Ellie's like, I don't know about this, Mom. Like, you can tell she's anxious. She's holding my hand, and I'm like, you're going to be fine. I wasn't really listening. I have to be honest with you because, they're butterflies, and everybody loves butterflies. And so she's saying, I don't know if I want to go in, and we're like, don't be silly. Don't be silly. It's going to be so much fun because I'm absolutely convinced that once she gets in there and sees this, like, rainforest, jungle-like setting with all these butterflies, she's going to love it. And we don't want her to miss out on this experience. But my husband and I were kind of taking it as like a once-in-a-lifetime. Like, if she misses this opportunity, her life will never be the same. And we're also not really buying that she's as nervous as she is. We think it's irrational. So we're trying to give her all the pep talks, they're butterflies, they're pretty, they're colorful, they fly around. The flying around part was the part that she did not like. And finally, we're waiting in line for our turn to get into the garden. And there's all these signs about, butterflies. And I'm reading them to her. This is so interesting because she always loved to read and she always loved to learn facts. She could not have cared less about the facts. I always like to read the facts because, teacher Miss Piccioli, every day has to be learning day. So we get into these special doors. There's double doors that lead into the garden. You go in one door, and then they make sure that there are no bugs or ants or anything on you before you go into the second door because they don't want you taking any strange bugs into the garden. And when I was explaining that to my daughter, I also said they'll do this again when we leave the garden, in case there are any butterflies that are... So I said, because we don't want to take any butterflies with us by mistake. And she's like, why would we take butterflies with us? That seems insane. And I'm like, well, if one lands on you and you don't notice. I never should have said that, because then she was like, absolutely not. But now we're in a small confined space. There's people behind us waiting to get in. We have to go through the next door or leave and not go in at all. And now I'm like, come on, Ellie, you're being ridiculous. We're going to go in. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great time. You're going to love it. Because I'm still convinced once she gets in there, she's going to love it. And she's like, no, and she's practically crying. I can't remember if she's crying at this moment, but my husband's losing his patience. I'm starting to sweat because I've got bags and babies in my arms, and I'm trying to convince her to go, and she's like, no. And then I'm like, trying to make her feel guilty. I'm thinking, that will work. Like, Ellie, we just spent all this money on tickets. Do you really want us to lose this money? She's like, I don't care. That should have been a huge red flag. Because, let me step back for a minute. Think about it. A parent's number one job, besides feeding and sheltering your children, is to make them feel safe. That's our job. Kids trust that their parents are going to make them feel better when they're afraid. Just think about that. And maybe make some predictions about what happens next. So she's still not going. And now I'm getting very frustrated because personally, quite frankly, I really want to see the butterflies. I love butterflies. And so I'm like, you're being ridiculous, Elizabeth Marion. Like, the first name and the middle name gets pulled out. The kid's 5. And she doesn't care. She does not want to go in. And then I say something to this day I can't believe I said. I was like, well, you know what? You're going to be grounded when you get home. And as I'm saying it, I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, who grounds a 5-year-old? And she even looked at me. She's like, I don't know what that means, Mommy. I'm like, well, it means you're in big trouble if you don't go in. Awful. Like, awful parenting moment. And so now she's so upset. She doesn't want to get anybody upset, but she doesn't want to go in. So my husband and I literally like practically have to carry her through the second door. And we promised her, the only way she kind of agreed, and she never really agreed, was that she could stay right by the door. So if she wanted to leave, she could leave, and that we wouldn't let any butterflies land on her. We made that promise. We absolutely said we'll keep doing the butterfly dance, because if we move around, the butterflies won't land on us. I'm convinced once she gets in there, she's going to love it. We are not through the door 30 seconds when my youngest daughter runs away because she is fired up. She can't wait. And as I'm yelling for her to come back, I see an orange butterfly fly towards us. The biggest butterfly I've ever seen. No joke, kids, this big. And doesn't it fly past me, and it lands right on my daughter's shoulders, right on Ellie's shoulder. And she loses it. I mean, she is so upset with the butterfly. She's freaking out. And I'm like, you've got to calm down. And my husband's embarrassed, and I'm embarrassed. And she's like, you promised you would keep me safe. And in that moment, I just looked at my husband and picked up my baby and carried her out. And I felt so guilty. And I was also still kind of mad because I couldn't see the butterflies myself. But I felt so bad. And to this day, she doesn't let me forget it. She does not let me forget the day I made her go into the butterfly garden. And to this day, she still hates butterflies. Thanks, guys. Bye.